Hello, my name is Clyde Shafer, and I would like to welcome you to my YouTube channel. I started this channel because I have a story to tell. I want to get down to a little business first. I am not a YouTuber, so I am not going to ask you to subscribe. As a matter of fact, this is the 17th time that I've tried to video this for you to be able to watch me do what I want to do with this channel. And what am I going to do with this channel? Well, I'm hoping that I've got a story to tell that will change some lives. You see, a few years ago, I had a medical emergency happen to me, and I had a lot of questions that I needed answers for. And there was only one way I could find to get all the right answers, and you will find out what that way is as we go on. Now, I'm going to keep you hanging a little bit because I'm not going to cover this whole book in one setting. We're going to go chapter by chapter, and it's going to be week by week. So let me introduce you to my book. My book is called Closed Windows, Open Doors, Shattered Glass. And I'm going to go ahead and do an introduction about the book itself, starting with the back cover and reading to you from the back cover. Then I'm going to read its prologue and its introduction for this first video. In 2023, I suffered a brainstem stroke. This is a story of my healing through hardship and despair. It is a journey that reveals my struggles with spiritual healing as I question God's purpose and reasons during one of the most difficult times of my life. My story takes readers through parts of my personal history as I searched for the meaning and sought to discover God's plan for me. Along the way, I reflect on the windows that were closed while discovering the doors that God had opened for me. As part of this journey, I returned to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I revisit the church which I was baptized. There, I experienced healing, reflection, and the realization that some parts of our past are best left as cherished memories rather than revisited destinations. This road trip becomes more than a physical journey. It becomes a spiritual one. Along the way, I encounter the glass walls that must be shattered in order to continue healing and move forward with God in control. My hope is that this story will inspire others who are facing their own hardships and struggles. Through faith, perseverance, and trust in God's guidance, we can find purpose in our pain and discover the doors He opens when others seem to close. Forward. This is a story about living in God's presence and trying to understand His will. Why does He allow bad things happen to good people? Is it a wake-up call? For me, it most certainly was. I believe that God had to wake me up from my usual way of living so that I could tell this story. It is a story of despair, vulnerability, challenges, questions, hope, peace, and understanding. It is a journey that taught me that even when life seems at its worst, God is walking beside us every step of the way. Sometimes He walks beside us, sometimes He guides us, and sometimes He picks us up and carries us through the valleys and difficult roads we encounter along the way. Looking back, I know that God must be tired by now because He most certainly carried me for many miles. Through a brainstem stroke, physical recovery, spiritual struggles, and a journey into my past, I learned that God never abandoned me. Even during the moments when I questioned Him the most, He was present in every prayer, every challenge, every blessing, and every open door placed before me. My hope is that my story will inspire others who may be facing their own hardships, uncertainties, and struggles. If this journey teaches us anything, it is that God is always at work in our lives, even when we cannot see His purpose. Sometimes the windows we believe have closed or simply guiding us toward the doors He has already opened. May this story encourage you to trust Him and discover His presence in your own journey. Introduction. Windows closed, doors opened. Life can change in an instant. On August 20th, 2023, my life changed forever when I suffered a brainstem stroke. One moment I was teaching Sunday school, living my normal routine, making plans for the future. The next, I found myself fighting for my life and wondering what that future looked like. Like many people who have experienced a life-altering event, I was left with questions. Why did this happen? Why now? What was God trying to teach me? What was this simply a medical event, or was there a greater purpose behind it? For much of my life, I've been focused on staying busy. I worked hard. I worried about things I could not control. I had often pushed myself beyond what was healthy. Looking back, I can see that God had been trying to get my attention for quite some time. I simply was not listening. The stroke forced me to slow down. It forced me to depend on others. Most importantly, it forced me to depend on God. This book is not a journey of a stroke survivor. It is a story of a man trying to understand God's will while navigating one of the most difficult seasons of his life. It is a story of faith, fear, doubt, hope, healing, and discovery. Along the way, I learned that God's plans do not always match our own plans. Sometimes He closes windows that we desperately want to keep open. Sometimes He redirects our paths through unexpected detours. Sometimes He allows us to experience challenges that ultimately draws us closer to Him. The title of this book comes from the realization that developed during my recovery. For years, people have said, when God sees a door, or excuse me, let me redo that. For years, people have said that when God closes a door, He opens a window. My experience taught me something different. God doesn't close doors and open windows. He opens doors. It is up to us to have the faith and courage to walk through them. Throughout these pages, you will travel with me through hospital rooms, rehabilitation centers, church pews, family memories, and a road trip that took me back to places that shaped my life. You will meet people whose kindness and prayers carried me through the dark days. You will share in moments of humor, heartbreak, frustration, and joy. Most importantly, you will see how God's presence remained constant even when I struggled to understand His purpose. This journey taught me that healing involves much more than the body. Physical wounds may recover with time, medicine, and therapy, but spiritual healing requires trust. It requires surrender. It requires believing that God is still working even when we cannot see what lies ahead. As this journey unfolds, another symbol emerges: shattered glass. At first, shattered glass appears as the result of an unexpected event during our travels. But as I reflected on that experience, I realized it represented something much different, deeper. Throughout life, we build walls around ourselves. Some are made from fear, some are made from pain, disappointment, pride, or past experiences. We often look through these glass walls believing they protect us, when in reality they may be preventing us from fully experiencing God's purpose. My stroke shattered many things I thought were certain. It shattered my sense of control. It shattered my plans. It shattered my confidence in my own abilities. Yet through those broken pieces, God allowed me to see life from a different perspective. Sometimes healing requires more than opening a door. Sometimes it requires shattering the glass that stands between us and the life God is calling us to live. As you read this book, you will discover how God used closed windows, open doors, unexpected detours, and even shattered glass to teach me lessons about faith, healing, gratitude, and trust. My prayer is that this book encourages anyone facing hardship, uncertainty, illness, loss, or disappointment. If you are struggling to understand why something has happened in your life, I hope my story reminds you that you are not walking alone. God is with you every step of the way. Sometimes He walks beside you, sometimes He guides you, and sometimes when the road becomes too difficult, He carries you. As you begin this journey with me, I invite you to look for the doors God may be opening in your own life. They may not always be where you expect to find them, but they are there. This is my story of closed windows, open doors, and the faith that carried me through both. Stay tuned. Each Sunday I'm going to post another video. Next Sunday we will start with chapter 1. Thank you and God bless.